Hi and welcome back to our channel. This week is a hugely exciting week as I discover the results of my big potato growing experiment. This journey started back in January when I first bought a rotavator, learned how to use it and tilled a fresh patch of ground with the aim of growing enough potatoes for my family for the year. I brought over wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow of compost, tilled that in too, realised I didn't have enough space, tilled another area, manured that, researched and ordered my seed potato varieties, dug my trenches, planted over 200 tubers, set up irrigation and then lovingly cared for them during the months that followed. Stay to the end to see whether it was all worth it. Alright, we have a little bit of very welcome cloud cover today and I'm going to have a go at harvesting some potatoes. I've already been at it. I've done a fifth, about a quarter. As you can see behind me, I've done one line out of I've got 3 long lines here, and today I'm going to have a go at this line in the middle. So yeah, I did do like 1 plant from here, or 2 maybe, from the beginning of this line, and then I just didn't get any further. So this was the super early variety called Nawen. So this is the Nawen potato. I feel like potentially they could be bigger, but at this end here we're the furthest away from the sprinkler, and what I found on the other row was that like the best irrigated area you got, the bigger the potatoes were, which makes sense. Anyway, there they are. I worked my way along the lines digging out the potatoes. As you can see, my potatoes had got very overgrown by this point, and that is probably the main disadvantage of the sprinkler system, that because it irrigates the whole bed and the pathways, not just the individual plants, you do really have to be on top of weeding, and I clearly hadn't been. However, I was grateful for the nice soft soil, which was pretty easy to dig and made this job a lot more enjoyable than it could have been. Look, worms in here and everything. See, like where the irrigation was just right, it's just so easy to harvest them, and then where it's not, it's really hard. keep finding these like squishy little green things in the ground. I'm not sure what they are. I thought it was like a potato seed ball or something, like potato fruit, if that even exists, but I'm not sure because this one was underground. I will research that and let you know. Okay, I'm about halfway there. I think that's looking pretty good. And I just noticed as well, these things growing over here, which I think are sweet corn from where we had the chicken tractor, and some of their corn from their feed would have dropped down here because it's just along where we've been moving the chicken tractor, so that's kind of funny. There's a good like 15 plants here around the corner as well. There's my sweet corn over there by the yurt, which I actually planted. But yeah, curious to see how this does. Okay, I got halfway down this row and then it was dinner time, so back to collect the potatoes up. I'm just gonna see with these little kitchen scales basically how many kilos of potatoes go in one of these boxes, and then I can work out from there because I'm just curious to know what we're getting. I think this variety has done really well. Like, some of these are really long, look at that. I would definitely grow these again. Sorry, the chickens are being weird. Yeah, I would definitely grow these again. Really happy with these. I definitely think I could have used the space here better because I originally planned this area to be like raised beds in the long term. I had like quite wide beds and quite wide paths, and I just had one row of potatoes per bed, but I think I probably could have got double or triple the amount of potato plants in here and just not really had much like pathway at all, because honestly you don't really need it, and it just got covered in weeds and it's just got really overgrown. So I think I could have done that better, but yeah, I'm gonna collect all these up and you can tell me whether it's a good harvest or not from, this would have been about 25 plants. By the way, if you're going to store potatoes, the best thing to do is just to brush the soil off. Don't fully wash them because a little coating of soil just helps keep the skins intact and help keep them in good condition. If they have any damage on them like this one, then you want to eat those first, so give those a wash and put them in the fridge. If I left them out a little bit longer, just to make sure all of the soil was completely dry, they'd be a little bit easier to brush off, but it's not too bad. That's too heavy. 1.6, 2, only goes up to 2 kilos, okay. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. If anyone knows how many kilos of potatoes roughly fit in a basket like this, let me know, because I'm not weighing all of these potatoes in 2 kilo batches. That's just silly.
That evening I continued collecting and sorting the potatoes I'd dug up, and this was what I got so far. The next day was also relatively cool compared to some of the days we've been having lately, so I was able to carry on with the harvesting.
The funny thing is, I was kind of dreading this job. Well, not exactly dreading it, but like I was just kind of thinking, I have to see if I ever want to grow that many potatoes again after harvesting them in the middle of summer. I was just aware it was going to be a lot of work, and it is hard work, but this is actually one of the most fun jobs I've done in a while. It's just really cool to see what's under there and to dig them all up. It's like I'm constantly torn between like needing to stop and take a rest and I just want to carry on. Right, feeling cooler now, let's get back to it. And like, it is a lot of work, but at the same time, like, it's only a few days of actually planting and digging them up. Like, if you were actually dependent on potatoes for like your main carbohydrate crop, like, it's doable. Like, I just think that's so cool. I mean, I know this is obvious to like anyone who's grown like staple crops before, but it's just the first time I've done it and it's really cool. Okay, that's what we got from the rest of that row. These are the ones I'm gonna have to wash and use first, and then we've got this bucket here. I was exhausted, but digging up the potatoes was very addictive, so I started on the third line. This variety was called Alouette, and it had taken a little longer to mature than my other two varieties, needing 120 days, but we were at exactly that, so I was good to go. As fun as it is to do these big harvests, something I would maybe do next year is try and space out some of my plantings a little bit more, so I can harvest continually over a few months, and then I would have fresher potatoes for longer. However, I can also see how convenient it is to have a whole field cleared at once, and I do have plans for this field now the potatoes are gone, so at the moment I think I would also repeat this system, at least for my storage varieties. So just to show you what these ones look like, red skin and yellow flesh inside. Besides the exciting stuff like harvesting potatoes, life on our farm is also made up of lots of little jobs which often don't make it into the videos because they just seem kind of insignificant or don't fit in with the main project or theme we're showing that week. But they still happen and they take up a fair amount of time. These hot summer days when we can't quite face big exhausting projects are good days for working through lots of these little jobs. So just to give you a little break from the potatoes, I thought I'd give you a glimpse of some of them. The first job was adding the remaining stakes to the bottom of our recently installed fencing. About 80% of the fence was staked apart from this little strip along here, so I just needed to get that done. I also recently had to sort out our garlic, which had been curing in the polytunnel. This meant snipping off the stalks and the roots and sorting it out into bulbs which would store well and bulbs which wouldn't. So a lot of the garlic this year opened up a little bit too much before I got around to harvesting it. I just left it in the ground too long and this is what happens. That means it won't store as well. All of this stuff here is looking good, so I think that will store okay normally, like on a shelf in the pantry. But this other stuff which has less like protection around the bulbs and around the individual cloves, I'm going to preserve a different way. In order to preserve the opened up garlic, I had to peel it all, which is definitely one of my least favourite jobs.
Once it was all peeled and washed, I lacto-fermented it in salt water, and Mauro also tried a lacto-fermentation in honey.
Right, so a little job that I'm planning to do this morning is just to trim away the any branches and bushes and stuff that are touching the electric line in the donkeys' paddocks. Haven't done this for a little while, and I noticed the other day that it was getting a little bit out of control, and it is very important to keep stuff off the electric lines, firstly because it damages the battery having anything touching the lines, and it weakens the effectiveness of the circuit overall. But the more important reason is that it's a fire risk, so anyway you've got stuff touching a line, if it's undergrowth, dry, dead vegetation, it's fire risk. So I'm going to clean that up, and the only reason I've let it get so overgrown is because until recently we haven't really been using the electric fence. We haven't really had it on because the donkeys just respect it, so save the battery, preserve the battery life, and I've only turned it on again the other day because of the boars. So yeah, it's got a little bit overgrown in some places, so I'm going to go sort that out now. But first, breakfast.
With the donkeys fed, I set to work trimming back anything that was touching or close to the electric lines. To be fair, the donkeys do a good job of eating most vegetation they can reach, but there are a few things like the lentisco or the mastic tree which they won't touch, along with rosemary, pine and a few other select species, so this was mostly what I was cutting back.
Right, I actually didn't get very far with this the other day. It was too hot. I was just dripping. I thought it would be a nice gentle activity, but you're so exposed here in the donkey terraces that it was just impossible. So I'm going to carry on today. Okay, that job is done. Thankfully the donkeys don't actually have that much electric fencing because they're mostly just kept in by really high terrace walls, so it wasn't too hard. And yeah, I was able to have a look at some of the trees that we've got growing around here. The almonds, which are doing quite well, also some carob, which are not that easy to access, but we're starting to get what's looking like a good year for carob, so if we can get to them to harvest them easily, that would be nice. Alright, it's time for one final push with these potatoes. It's very humid today. Well, it's not that humid, it's like 40%, but that just feels really humid. Yep, let's see what we can do.
I continued working on the final row of potatoes. The harvest had taken me several afternoons, and in total I got 2.5 of those green crates, which if anyone could tell me how much that might weigh, I would love to know. Each of my 3 rows contained 3 kilos of seed potatoes to start with, on which I spent €30 in total. I've definitely got more potatoes than I started with, which is what I was after, but I have no idea if this was a good harvest or not. Let me know what you think.
close. We've got maybe, well, I can see like 3 plants, but I think there's probably 2 or 3 more that have completely died down under here. And as you can see, or maybe you can't see, but I've also made quite a good start towards weeding and remulching the sweet potatoes which are along here. Anyway, let's get back to it. Yay! I did it! They're all done. They're all harvested. Well, all the ones from those 3 rows. I still have 2 rows in the garden area near the yurt. Slightly shorter rows, which I planted a bit later, so I'll do those another day. But yeah, I'm super happy with that. I do have some green manure, which I'm going to sow, like, right away. I'll probably just go over the soil with a rake, maybe do another double check for any extra potatoes, break up any lumps of like big clods of soil, and then sow my green manure. But I'll tell you all about that another day, because I feel like you've probably seen enough of this potato field now. Oh, and I did look into those little fruit things. They are potato fruits, and they do contain hundreds of tiny little potato seeds. Being in the tomato family, you can apparently save those seeds just as you would with tomato seeds by like fermenting them in water for a couple of days and then getting the seeds out once the film around them has broken down. And you can plant them, and then you have like genetically diverse potatoes rather than just clones from the tuber. Anyway, there's lots of stuff online about it. Some people are really into growing potato from seed. Maybe it's something I'll try next year, I don't know, but I'm done with potatoes for a little while. Yeah, I'll tell you about that in another video. Anyway, thank you for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next one.